At 3 a.m., the monitor on my nightstand picked up a second voice answering my daughter's babbling, one word at a time, and it wasn't me, it wasn't my husband, and it wasn't coming from anywhere in our house. I know that because I checked every room before the sun came up, and I found the door to her nursery locked from the inside. Let me back up. My name doesn't matter for this. What matters is that 6 weeks ago we brought home a video monitor for our daughter, Mia, who was 4 months old at the time. Standard stuff, camera in the crib corner, receiver on my nightstand, an app on my phone as backup. My husband, Dale, set it up while I was still recovering from the delivery, and for the first 2 weeks it worked exactly like it was supposed to. Static hiss when she moved. Silence when she slept. Nothing strange. The first odd thing happened so small I almost didn't mention it. I woke up to feed her around 2 a.m. and the monitor was already making noise, a kind of low hum underneath her breathing, like a second frequency bleeding through. Dale said it was probably a baby monitor from a neighbor's house crossing signals with ours. That happens, apparently, with the cheaper models. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. But I remember lying there afterward, listening to that hum fade in and out like it was breathing along with her. For about 10 days after that, nothing. Then Mia started babbling at night. Not crying, just those long strings of vowel sounds babies make when they're working out how talking is supposed to feel. I'd hear her through the monitor, that soft rise and fall, and I'd smile and roll back over because that's normal, that's what babies do. Except one night she paused. And something paused back. It was faint, almost under the noise floor of the speaker, but it had the same rhythm as her babbling, like it was mimicking her cadence back to her. I sat up and turned the volume all the way up and just listened. She babbled again. It answered again. Not an echo, echoes don't have a half-second delay and a different pitch. This had a shape to it, like a low voice trying to sound higher than it was. I woke Dale up. By the time he was alert enough to listen, it had stopped, and all we got was Mia's normal breathing. He told me monitors pick up radio interference all the time, cordless phones, garage door openers, other monitors in nearby apartments. He'd looked it up once for a friend. I let it go, because it was 3 a.m. and I was exhausted and I wanted an answer that let me go back to sleep. Here's the thing I didn't tell him that night. Right before the sound cut out, I heard it say her name. Not baby. Not a random syllable that happened to sound close. Mia. 2 clean syllables, the same inflection I use when I call her in from the other room. I told myself I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation does strange things to your ears, I know that, everyone tells you that when you're a new mother, and I wanted so badly for it to be true that I didn't check the recording that night. The app saves clips when it detects sound. I didn't look. That's on me. 3 nights later I did look, because it happened again, and this time I was already awake when it started. I opened the app history. There was a clip from the exact timestamp I remembered, 11 seconds long. I pressed play and got Mia's babbling, clear as day, and then 11 seconds of silence where I know I heard a voice answer her. Not garbled. Not quiet. Gone. Like it had been recorded over, or like it had never made it into whatever the microphone was supposed to catch, only into whatever my own ears were catching live. I started sleeping with my phone in my hand after that, recording my own audio parallel to the monitor, just in case. For a week, nothing happened. I almost convinced myself the whole thing had been sleep deprivation stacked on new parent anxiety, which every article and every well-meaning relative will tell you is extremely common and extremely explainable. I wanted to be a statistic. Statistics are comforting. Then came the night I checked on her at 3 a.m. and the nursery door was locked. We never lock that door. There's no reason to, and the lock is one of those old-fashioned twist knobs that's stiff enough we usually just leave it undone entirely. I stood in the hallway in the dark, hearing her babble through the monitor speaker down the hall, hearing that other voice answer her, low and warm and almost tender, and I could not get into the room. Dale got the door open with a flathead screwdriver in under a minute. Mia was fine. Asleep, actually, not babbling at all, hadn't been for however long it takes a 4-month-old to fall fully still. The monitor camera showed her sleeping peacefully the entire time on playback. No babbling on the recording. No second voice. Just a sleeping baby and a locked door that unlocks from the inside only, which means somebody would have had to be in that room to lock it. I want to tell you we called someone about this. We didn't, not at first, because what do you even say? What I did do, quietly, during nap time the next day, was look up who lived in this house before us. We'd bought it 2 years earlier from an estate sale, an older woman who'd raised 3 kids in it and passed away in her 90s, nothing dramatic, nothing the listing agent seemed to be hiding. I found an obituary, a handful of old tax records, nothing about a nursery, nothing about a locked door. It was a dead end, and I remember being almost disappointed, because a dead end meant there was nothing to point to except the sound itself. We did unplug the monitor and put Mia in our room in her bassinet for a few nights, and during those nights there was nothing. No hum, no voice, no strange locked doors. Just an ordinary tired baby and 2 ordinary tired parents. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. We moved her back to the nursery after about 10 days, partly because the bassinet in our room was making it impossible for either of us to sleep, partly because I'd convinced myself the problem had been the monitor itself, some manufacturing defect picking up interference, and I'd bought a different brand, a different frequency entirely, one that used a closed wired connection instead of wireless. The wire matters. There's no signal to cross. There's no neighbor's monitor to blame. For nights in, at 3 a.m., it came back. Same cadence. Same warmth. And this time it didn't answer her babbling. It answered mine. I'd whispered something to myself in bed, just a tired complaint under my breath about not being able to sleep, barely audible even to Dale beside me. Through the monitor, a half-second later, in that same low voice, came a reply. Just for me. Using my name this time, not hers. I unplugged the monitor at the wall that night and it kept transmitting for another 11 seconds before it finally cut out. I know because I was staring at the receiver screen when I pulled the cord, and the little audio bars kept moving after the power light went dark. Dale didn't hear any of it. He was asleep beside me the whole time, and when I woke him up and told him what had happened, he checked the wire himself, checked the wall socket, checked the receiver for a battery backup that could explain the delay. There wasn't one. He didn't say I was imagining it, not out loud, but I watched him decide not to argue with me either, which was somehow worse. It meant he'd run out of ordinary explanations too. We've since moved Mia's crib into our room permanently. Dale thinks it's better for bonding at this age anyway, and that's the version of this we tell people who ask why the nursery sits empty now with the door shut. Mia said her first real word 2 mornings ago. Not Mama. Not Dada. A name. One I don't recognize, not a relative, not a name either of us has ever used around her, said clearly and happily like she was greeting someone she already knew well. I haven't plugged a monitor back in since. But some nights I still wake up at exactly 3 a.m., and I lie there in the dark next to her crib, listening to her breathe, waiting to hear if she starts babbling again, and wondering which one of us it would be answering to.